No justice, no peace.
This morning, some of the smallest Americans are lending their voices as protests swell across the country.
It's just to show people that Black Lives Matter.
Kids helping raise the volume on calls for racial equality.
Now, millions of people around the world can and do march like this, while presumably millions more still cannot. So they march here in part for them, but also for tolerance in America.
Sisterhood is powerful. Join us now. Join us now.
Hey, what is up, guys? So today I'm going to be talking about why the vegan movement is separate and different and unique from any other social justice movement that has occurred in the past, that is occurring today, and why that specific difference that makes the vegan movement different from any other social justice movement today might also be why vegans are stereotyped as people that are very vocal and talkative about being vegan. So before I go on with this video, I do want to say that this video is not meant to take away or diminish from any other social justice movement that has occurred in the past or that is occurring today. Social justice movements today that are anti-racism, anti-sexism, anti-transphobia, and anti-homophobia all have great causes, and I support those causes. So again, today I want to talk about why the vegan movement is different and separate and unique from all of these other social justice movements. Let's begin.
A look at the new faces joining the protests. They may be young, but they are playing an increasingly important role.
I'll tell you what, it was quite a day in Manhattan. Hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets for the Pride March.
Now, we fought the public accommodations fight 10 years ago with the blacks. Are we going to have to start all over again with women?
How about, would you like a sign up there that said blacks only or whites only? It's the same principle, sir. Women are persons, women are people.
And we want to be able to come and go through it, and we don't want to be intimidated by signs that say men's buffet.
It's okay, baby.
See how they're like on top of each other? They can't move. They're scared. They've been in here for days. Look how thirsty they are. It's okay. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
The vegan movement is quite literally fighting for the voiceless. When it comes to other movements that are fighting against racism, transphobia, homophobia, and sexism, the victims that are being fought for within these movements, they actually have a voice. They possess the cognitive capacity to not only speak, they also possess the capacity to formulate ideas and arguments. But when it comes to the beings that the vegans are fighting for, the animals, they are not able to speak whatsoever. They cannot formulate ideas and arguments against animal use in the same way that an African American can formulate ideas and arguments against racism, or a woman can formulate ideas and arguments against sexism, etc. We have such thing as African American anti-racism activists. We have such thing as transgender anti-transphobia activists, but there is no such thing as an animal rights activist, or at least a non-human animal rights activist. So because of the fact that animals are voiceless, vegans have to be the ones who speak up for them. This is also why there's organizations such as Anonymous for the Voiceless, or why some vegan activists will call themselves a voice for the voiceless, because animals literally don't have a voice. So the fact that animals are voiceless might account for why vegans are known to talk about being vegan so much, because the ones we're fighting for under no circumstance are actually able to talk and speak against the use of them and the oppression of them in the same way that an African American can fight against oppression towards them or racism in general. And in some people's eyes, the idea that vegans talk about being vegan so much can be paralleled with how people that do the keto diet talk about doing the keto diet so much. But there is actually a difference here. The vegan diet is not just a diet, it is a lifestyle, it is a moral philosophy that entails being against the use, exploitation, and killing of sentient life that would rather not be used for human benefit. Vegans are fighting for arguably the most oppressed beings on this planet, and of course it doesn't help that those oppressed beings cannot speak for themselves and argue and debate in the same way that, say, an African American can in reference to fighting against racism. I could imagine that if animals were actually able to speak, vegans would probably feel less compelled to actually be activists for them and speak up as much as we do for them. Now, of course, I'm not saying that we wouldn't be activists for them, period. We would still be activists for them in the same way that, say, non-African Americans or white people are activists for African Americans who can also speak right now. When you see the world from a vegan's eyes, it becomes a bit more understandable why we talk about being vegan so much, or why we're so vocal about our beliefs in general. Almost everywhere we go, we see derivatives of the unjustified use of animals that we're fighting against. We see it in restaurants with animal products and food.
Well, you can find it at McDonald's. The new Bacon Smokehouse Burger. It's the newest flavor of the signature crafted recipes by McDonald's.
We see it with clothing when it comes to leather and fur and all that. When it comes to makeup products, you'll see products that have been tested on animals. If you go to the zoo, you'll see animals being used for entertainment. It's seemingly everywhere, so you have to just see the world from a vegan's perspective and understand that when we walk around in this world, we see all of these different derivatives of the unjustified use of animal use. And it gets to us and makes us want to speak out because, again, the ones we're fighting for cannot speak out themselves. Just try to be in a vegan's shoes and understand what it's like to be aware of the unjustified use of animals across the planet and being exposed to these things on a daily basis. It's not really a nice feeling, and it makes you want to speak up. To the LGBTQ activists, to the transgender activists, to the Black Lives Matter activists, if you're watching this video, I want you to imagine what it'd be like if the victims that you're fighting for could not speak themselves and are at the cognitive capacity of, say, livestock animals. I'm sure your intuition tells you that you would want to fight for them even more than you already do. Because if you wouldn't, the victims you're fighting for would not be heard or understood at any possible degree. So if you're a non-vegan social justice activist, or even just a non-vegan in general, the next time that you find yourself getting annoyed at a vegan for being too vocal and annoying about talking about being vegan, just understand that the reason that we're vocal about being vegan is partially motivated by the fact that the victims we're fighting for cannot be vocal. To the vegans watching this video, please send this video out to your fellow social justice activist friends, especially the ones who you've seen in the past get particularly annoyed with vegans about being too vocal about being vegan. Hopefully this video can rationalize the actual reason why we end up talking about being vegan so much. And one last thing, vegans watching this video, I do plan on doing a video soon on the ironic stereotype that vegans don't ever stop talking about being vegan. Now I say ironic because I know that from your experiences and from mine, we all know that when it comes to talking about being vegan, they find out you're vegan, they announce it to everybody, they start asking you all these questions for whatever reason, probably guilt, about why you're vegan, and they might even start talking about things like, oh, like I would go vegan, but this and that, and they keep the conversation going when you yourself are really just trying to chill and not even talk about being vegan, but they keep going at it and keep bringing it up. Now, I do acknowledge that vegans do talk about being vegan a lot. That was the central point of this video, or at least one of them. But what I'm going to try to be explaining in that video is that it isn't solely just the vegans that are responsible for veganism being talked about so much. It's also the non-vegans. And honestly, in my experience, it seems like non-vegans are the ones more responsible for veganism being brought up in conversation than actual vegans. Let me know in the comments below if you have this experience too, if you're one of those people that try to not talk about being vegan, but then everyone who finds out you're vegan, or at least a lot of people that find out you're vegan, end up just bringing it up, asking all these questions, which, I'm not saying that the questions are bad. Some people are just curious, but the only point I'm trying to make here is that vegans are not solely responsible for veganism being brought up in conversation. All right, guys, that is the end of the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps with engagement, helps to grow the channel, and makes me have a higher likelihood of being put up on the algorithm. And I really want this video to get around and to help people understand why vegans can be so vocal and why the vegan movement is different from any other social justice movement that has occurred today or that has happened in the past. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoy my content and want to support me on Patreon, the link is in the description below. My goal is to make this a sort of full-time thing. I want to become a full-time activist. I want to get to that Earthling Ed level, James Aspie level, Joey Carbstrong level, and things like Patreon and videos getting monetized eventually are the things that are going to help me do this full-time, and that's really the end goal here. Because if I can end up doing this full-time, my content's going to become more quality, and my end goal is to develop the funds to be able to kind of travel the world and debate people on veganism and explain to people why the vegan position is the most rational and logical position. And of course, the other thing is to help you guys with some comic relief and making you guys laugh occasionally to cope with the actual nonsense that we hear on a seemingly daily basis about veganism. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.